So a few months ago, I posted a video about my encounter with a 1%er, or at least a former 1%er of a local outlaw motorcycle club, and my interaction with him, and things that he warned me about, what not to do, what to do around these guys, stuff like that. So if you haven't seen that video yet, I highly recommend you go check that out, because if you don't, well, this video isn't going to make a whole lot of sense, at least not as much sense as it could make. So a few weeks ago, I was at work doing pretty much the same thing as the first encounter, out in the yard, loading lumber, loading block, loading sand, everything in between for our local contractors. And this time I was with my very awesome manager and one of my other yard dogs, as I like to call them. I think coworkers is a little too tacky, but I like to call them yard dogs because it makes us sound cool, all right? Anyway, so about half an hour before my shift ended, it's a hot one outside. It's 85, 90 degrees out there. We are slaving away, earning our dollar paycheck. You know, my manager, he likes to set a great example when it comes to customer service out there. Whenever somebody from the gate gets called in, he's the first one to answer it, just to make sure that, you know, they're taken care of like a good manager should. Shout out to Scott. It was nearing the end of my shift, and I'm getting ready to wrap things up. And I'm downstocking, as we like to call my last pallet of block, patio block that is. And this older gentleman gets called into the yard. I don't pay any mind to it because I'm kind of checked out for the day. I'm not going to lie. I wasn't really mentally there. I was just doing my thing and wanting to go the hell home. So I can go riding on this thing. My manager is the first person to be like, hey, got it. So this pickup truck pulls up about, I don't know, 2 aisles down from where I was. I wasn't able to see, nor was I paying attention of who got out of the truck. And he goes up to the truck, and about 30 seconds later, he calls my name as he's rolling back into the aisle on his forklift. He goes, Ryder. I respond to him. I'm like, yeah, what's up, man? He's like, hey, there's a guy here who wants you to help him out. I'm like, that's kind of strange. It's not too often, but it's not out of the ordinary to be requested by certain people who are regulars there, because, you know, you give them good customer service or good guest service, whatever you want to call it, and they want to keep sticking with you because they're going to get it each time. You know what I mean? Nothing out of the ordinary. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of strange. I don't know anybody that's a local contractor that requested me, nor rarely does anybody request my assistance. And as he's rolling up, he's like, yeah, it's some old guy. He says he wants to talk to you about joining a motorcycle club. And I look at my manager kind of funny. I'm like, join a motorcycle club? I'm like, who would request me and then say they want me to join a motorcycle club? And I'm like scrolling through the list of people that I have assisted, you know what I mean? Assisted in my head. And there's only like a handful of people that I can think of that know that I ride, who I am, what I do, and that I've talked to about motorcycle clubs. So in my head, I'm like, is it who I think it is? And so I roll up, and then the guy who I thought it was, the 1%er that I made the video on, is standing there in soft colors. And I'm like, oh shit, okay, that's what's up. This dude recognized me. That's cool. So I roll up to the guy and I'm like, hey bud, how's it going, man? He's like, hey kid, how you doing? I'm like, I'm all right, man. What can I help you with? He hands me his paper with his block and whatnot. And so he goes, yeah, man, I just wanted to talk to you. I remember our conversation, and that's why I told your manager I wanted to talk to you. And I'm like, oh, okay, what's up? And he's like, I remember our conversation. And here comes the really ironic part. He says, you know, I just wanted to make sure you were actually about what you said and you weren't actually looking to join a motorcycle club. And if you were, that you didn't join one of these bullshit ass ones like the ones you mentioned. And I like internally, I just kind of started laughing internally, because what he said, these quote unquote bullshit ass clubs, is I knew which one he was referring to, and I talk about it at the very end of the video on part 1. It's exactly what I thought he was going to say about those guys, and the way and how he referred to them as a bullshit ass club just solidified exactly what I said in my video, that these real hardened guys that have been there and done that, who have the stories to tell and the battle scars to prove it, think of these guys as clowns, man. Like, it's exactly what I thought it was. So it was nice to know that I have the same assumption or opinion as these hardened guys, I guess. So anyway, getting back on the conversation we start having, So he says to me, he's like, you you ever put thought into joining a motorcycle club? And I'm like, no, not really, man. He's like, well, okay, I was just wondering, and I figured I'd ask you while I was here, because if you were to join one, I'd want you to join a real one that has history, that has the background of being an actual hardened motorcycle club like the one I was in. And I'm like, well, with the stories you told me and the warning you gave me the first time, with all due respect to you and your club, I'll pass. I'll keep with my guys. And he's like, all right, I respect that answer, but it's not what it used to be. It's not necessarily a disgusting, ass-kicking process that it used to be. It's still got the length and, I guess, grittiness to it in some sense, but it's not what it used to be. There's still some bad apples, some bad dudes in this club, but these newer guys aren't as hard-headed as we used to be. We listen to reason more. We talk it out, we have a vote, we challenge it, He's like, that's fine that you don't want to join, I just wanted to see because I would sponsor you. And I'm like, really? He's like, you'd sponsor me? He goes, yeah, I would sponsor you, you seem like a real class act. And I'm like, well, I wouldn't say class act now, but I appreciate you saying that. He's like, well, I mean that in a sense that you remind me of me. He's like, at least in my eyes, you're a pretty straight up guy, and you tell it like it is. He also says something that kind of took me back. He says, and you saw my tattoo, you saw my colors, and you weren't intimidated by the least bit. He said, I've talked to people that ride motorcycles and they don't even want to even step foot near me because they think I'm some giant that's gonna kick their ass or something silly like that. He's like, maybe back in the day I would have pressed your luck, but not anymore. And I'm like, well, with all due respect, my man, nobody does, because one, I don't go looking for it, and two, I make them regret it if they do. And he's like, see, that right there reminds me of me in a younger year. That's why I like you. And I'm like, okay. I really kind of pressed my luck saying that to this guy, because when I said that, out comes his son from the driver's seat, who's my age and is far bigger than I am, and could have probably laid the smackdown on me if I wanted to say something real stupid to his old man. But I have absolutely no reason to, or anybody that associates with any kind of motorcycle club, whether you're a 99 or a 1% club. But anyway, kind of losing my voice, haven't drank a lot of water today. So as I'm loading this guy up with his block and his lumber and his sand and whatnot, he says to me, we're having these benefits, and if ever you want to come by the clubhouse on this day at this time, knock on the door, ask for me, because I know I'll be there, and I'll let you in. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I didn't really know what to say, so I just kind of said, okay, yeah, man, I'll keep that in mind. That's something I plan on doing. Maybe for the experience-wise, yeah, maybe once or twice to see what that's all about. I think that would be cool to at least make maybe a undercover motovlog out of it. But then again, I'll start looking like an op if I do something shady, something undercover. I'll get their blessing to do like a video or something and be like, this is what it's like inside of a clubhouse of these guys. But obviously, it's only going to be what they allow me to show. You know what I mean? It's only going to be that. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool that this guy was like, I like you. I'd like to see you come around my brothers, or my former brothers, since he's retired out now. I don't know how they call it nowadays. But it was really cool for him to be like, you remind me of me. I would help at least get your foot in the door. He's like, you'd still have the prospect and whatnot, but it's not what it was like when I was your age. And, getting in, you don't have to reach in a pile of vomit to get somebody's keys out because they're too piss-hammered drunk to ride their motorcycle. He's like, you don't have to be drugged through dog shit to prove you know how to ride a motorcycle or something silly like that. And nor would I subject myself to something like that because I at least have standard. But yeah, I thought that was really cool, and at the same time I thought it was really ironic because this is the same guy who a few months ago was like, dude, stay out of it as far as you can, as long as you can. He's like, just don't even think about it. And I'm like, my man, no question. Didn't think about it. I just like to learn about you guys and other 1% motorcycle clubs because your camaraderie seems to dig a lot deeper than these other guys. And yeah, it's cool to learn about the type of brotherhood you guys have. Really, really cool to me for some reason. And I just like to learn about it, as mentioned many, many times in my videos. And in some ways, I think this guy is still giving me a warning that, you know, you got to know the right people. If it was just a bunch of guys you did not know, you had nothing in common with these guys, that it can lead to something that you don't want nothing to do with. And I believe that wholeheartedly. But this guy, he's like, you know, I like you. You know, you're a good guy and whatnot. So yeah, I thought that was a pretty cool to get someone my age and my generation a thumbs up, so to speak, from somebody who had been there and done that, who has the battle scars and the story to tell, so to speak. But yeah, even though this video talks about complete irony, it also shows that you got to give respect to get respect, and that's what I like to let off. And some days I'm not about that. Some days I do be a total asshole. I do mess up. I do make mistakes. But hey, I'm only human, and I'm willing to admit that to the nth degree. But what I'm also willing to admit is that I love making these videos for you guys. And if you guys enjoy these videos, subscribe to the channel. Check out the Instagram and TikTok where I post videos that I don't post on here. Be sure to check out esotericmotorcycleparts.com for parts if you want to deck out your Honda Fury or your Honda Shadow with ape hangers and other accessories that you just might like for your woman cave or your man cave, and such and such and such. As always, support your local veteran, be safe, and ride free. Peace out.